First of all, as to the Supreme Court decision, we'll abide by the Court's decision. That doesn't mean I have to agree with it. It was a deeply divided Court, and I strongly agree with those who dissented that, and their dissent was based upon their serious concerns about U.S. national security. Congress and the administration worked very carefully on a piece of legislation that set the appropriate procedures in place as to how to deal with the detainees. And we'll study this opinion, and we'll do so with this in mind to determine whether or not additional legislation might be appropriate so that we can safely say, or truly say to the American people, we're doing everything we can to protect you.
This is just the latest time the Supreme Court has ruled against something that President Bush was in favor of. We go now to CNN senior Pentagon correspondent Jamie McIntyre for more on the story. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Reggie. Well, this is, as you can imagine, a real setback for the Bush administration and their assertion that it will be a big problem to allow suspected terrorists to have access to federal courts. What we're talking about here, of course, is the right of habeas corpus. That is the right that is given to every American in the Constitution to challenge their detention in court, so people can't be just detained indefinitely. And of course, that's the problem that the detainees at Guantanamo, that's a situation that they're in. The Bush administration argued that no enemy combatants have ever been given access to federal courts to argue their case, but in the past, all of the enemy combatants have been prisoners of war with prisoner of war status. In this case, these detainees don't have prisoner of war status in many cases, and the Supreme Court ruled that they should have the ability to defend themselves in the courts. In addition, of course, to giving him that right, it's also given critics of the U.S. detention facility in Guantanamo Bay more ammunition to argue that that facility should be shut down. Among the people who believe that is none other than the U.S. Defense Secretary, Robert Gates, who says because of what happened at Guantanamo in the past, it has a, quote, taint about it. But at the same time, Secretary Gates concedes that the Pentagon right now has no good option for where to hold these detainees. Some 270, about 60 or 70 are judged to be very hardcore, the so-called worst of the worst that will likely be held for some time. He says he's not aware of any state in the United States that wants to take those terrorist suspects and put them in a state or federal prison. So that's where things stand now, right? The next step will be for the federal courts to start looking at some 200 cases that have been on hold pending the Supreme Court decision and decide how to proceed to give those detainees their day in court. Reggie?
CNN's Jamie McIntyre from the Pentagon this afternoon. Jamie, thanks so much.